2-3 is standard form of an equation. So our objectives, we will be able to write and graph linear equations in standard form. So if it's written in standard form, we want to be able to graph it. And if it's graphed, we want to be able to write a standard form equation to match the graph. And we want to use linear equations in standard form to interpret the x and y intercepts in the context of given data. We've talked a lot about y-intercepts because that's part of our slope-intercept equation, but we also can make use of the x-intercept. And so it's just like it sounds. You think about what the y-intercept is. It's where the line crosses the y-axis. So what's the x-intercept?
Where the line crosses the x-axis.
Where the line crosses the x-axis. And if you know those 2 points, if you know where the line crosses the y-axis and you know where the line crosses the x-axis, you can draw a line, right? You've got 2 points and you can make the line. So that's going to be a really handy way for us to make use of standard form equations. Not the only way, but it's going to be one way. All right, so we jump right into it here. Jay makes a playlist of 24 songs for a party, but he prefers country and rock music. So he builds the playlist from those 2 types of songs. Determine 2 different combinations of country and rock songs that Jay could use for his playlist. So if he's going to have a playlist of 24 songs and he's going to make them all either rock or country, what combination of rock and country songs could he have? Levi?
1 rock and 23 country.
He could do 1 rock and 23 country. Okay. And Rudy?
We can do it better. We can just cut rock out of it all. And just do
Yes.
country.
0
Just
rock,
boom
24
rock.
country.
Yeah,
Okay,
boom
we
rock.
could do that.
Country.
Levi, or Bennett?
She could do 12 rock and 12 country.
12 rock and 12 country. Okay, that would work. That's very balanced. I see where you guys are going with this. Kurt?
14 country and 10 rock.
14 country, 10 rock. Holton?
You can do 18 rock and 6 country.
18 and 6. I like it. Cooper, last one.
9 rock and 15.
9 rock, 15 country. All right. So you got that's super good job, guys. I like the way you did that. Now it says for us to plot the points on the graph and extend a line through the points. Here's the thing: if we're going to graph this, what do we have to decide before we can graph it?
Which number we choose?
Which axis is for which type of
Right, we have to decide which axis is rock and which axis is country. So our x-axis is going to be what?
rock?
Rock music, okay. So the x-axis is rock. That makes our y-axis country. If I know how to spell country, that'd be great. The country. Okay, country. All right, so let's see. So we said, I don't even remember some of the. One of you said 12 and 12. That was the easy one, right?
6 and 18.
6 rock, 18 country.
Yeah.
So 6 rock, 18 country. All right.
I prefer the 14 and 10.
14 rock,
I prefer
16. Okay, so that's going to be enough for us to get started. 14 and 10. Okay, so we can graph that. So 12 is going to be right there. And 6 and 18, so 6, that's 15, 16, 17, 18 is right there. And 14 and 10 is right here. Do we expect this to make a straight line?
Yes.
Yes, we do expect it to make a straight line, okay? And we can do that with a straight line tool on my handy dandy graphic tool here.
Dude, I'm writing on the wrong one.
Oh no.
Okay?
I'm so silly.
Back my straight line. Fine, I'll just use my calculator built in.
Okay, so what information does this line reveal?
We prefer rock over, or no, country over rock collectively.
When you add a rock song, you have to take a country song.
Okay, so if you, for every country song you add, you have to take a rock song away, or vice versa. Okay, I'm not sure which way you said it now.
First vice versa.
Okay,
Where's Bison?
this this is the type of graph that is really, really easily done in standard form. We're gonna write standard form equations for other graphs that aren't always this obvious, but this one is a really obvious standard form graph because of the way it's set up. So standard form is gonna be any time that I have a combination of my x and y values. So if I take my x value plus my y value, what do I want it to equal? How many songs?
24.
How many songs does he get? He gets 24 songs. So think about each one of these ordered pairs. X plus y, 12 plus 12 is 24. 6 plus 18 is 24. 14 plus 10 is 24. And that's going to be true of any ordered pair on that line that we drew. Okay, so they all fit this form of an equation. And this is going to be our standard form equation. Okay, so this is a standard form equation. This isn't the standard form equation we're going to get into. Okay, all right. So that's kind of the warm up. That's a good one. That's a really good warm up question for this topic that we're doing today. So I feel like there should be, well, okay, there it is. It's on here. Okay. Hannah will spend $150 on music festival tickets. Reserve seats that cost $25, and general admission tickets cost $10. How can you represent the situation with a linear equation? So let x equal the cost of the reserved seats, and let y equal general admission tickets. Money spent on reserved seat tickets plus the money spent on general admission tickets. When you add those two together, it has to equal the total budget. So 25 times however many tickets I buy is going to be the cost of the reserved seats. $10 times the number of general admission tickets I buy is going to be that cost, and then add them together, it equals $150. So anytime you have those two x and y values kind of playing against one another like that, where if you raise one, the other one has to go down, then we're gonna find it easy to write a standard form equation. Colin.
Y equals -5, and then x equals 8. She sells
You
8.
okay? So
Right.
that's going to be a scenario where the math works, but it's not a real life.
Yeah,
You
I
can't be a
know.
real life answer.
That's
So
a terrible
all right.
point.
So so the equation. Here we go. The equation 25x plus 10y equals 150 is in standard form. So here's the standard form equation. The standard form of a linear equation is ax plus by equals c. Bennett.
So with an equation like this, you could, it's like the other one, but it's a little bit more complicated. You take your x and your y, and you know what it has to equal, so you can have many different combinations of numbers.
Yes, it's going to be very important for me. I'm going to try to do a really good job with this year with you guys of connecting the ordered pairs on the graph to the equations that we've been writing. I don't feel like I've always done a great job of that as a teacher, where you need to see the relationship between the line on the graph and the equation. It's not just, it's not random. It's very orderly. So every one of these ordered pairs for this one fits with our equation here, x plus y equals 24. Okay, and so same thing if we graph this one, we would have very specific points on the graph where the x and the y values make the equation true. And every line or every spot on that line will make that equation true. Anything that's not on the line won't make the equation true. The equation is only represented by points on the line. Okay, so we need to make that connection. Okay, so A, B, and C need to be integers. A and B cannot both be 0. Okay, one of them could be, because we're gonna end up with intercepts, right? Just like here on this one, we could have 0 rock songs and 24 country, or we could have 24 country and 0 rock. So one of them can be 0, but not both of them. All right. And then another rule, it's not on this screen, I'm not sure if it's going to get to it. A needs to be an integer. Okay. A, B, and I'm sorry, A, B, and C are all integers. It is on there. A, B, and C are all integers. We don't want fractions. Okay. All right. So that was on there. I just missed it. All right. Okay. We're gonna look at some examples. Here we go. What information does the standard form give you that the slope-intercept formula does not? So if you take this equation that they gave us, 25x plus 10y equals 150, and you solve it for y to get y by itself, so these two are the same equation, slope-intercept form and standard form. They look very different, right? But they're the same equation. If we graphed both of these, you'd get the exact same graphs, okay? So they look very different, but all we did was take this equation and we subtracted 25x minus 25x, right? And then we would have, I'm gonna write over here where I have room, 10y equals negative 25x plus 150. Everybody with me so far? That makes sense what I did. All I did was get, now I'm gonna get y by itself, divide by 10. So y equals negative 2.5x plus 15. Okay, so these are the same equations. That's the same, and this is the same as that, because I just solved it, right? So they're the same equation. I'm gonna get rid of all this so we can see the stuff. What is an advantage of writing a standard form instead of a slope-intercept? Well, the slope-intercept does show us one thing. It shows us that she can buy 15 general admission tickets if she buys no reserve seat tickets. So general admission is y, right? So if I put a 0 in for x, I buy 0 of that tickets, negative 2.5 times 0 takes that away, and I have 15 of those. So it tells me one thing, which is good, but it doesn't tell me everything. This one tells me the constraint. She can spend $150. So when the equation is in standard form, you can determine the constraint by inspection. What is a constraint?
Like a limit.
A limit. Yeah, it's exactly what a constraint is. It's something that limits what you're able to do. Do you guys have any constraints in your life? You got like a set amount of time you can spend on electronics a day, or do you have like a curfew or a bedtime, or an allowance, some amount of money you get to spend, or something? I mean, there's all kinds of constraints that you guys get. Okay. All right. So when the equation is in slope-intercept form, you can determine the y-intercept by inspection. What does it mean by inspection?
Looking at it.
Just by looking at it. Just by looking at the equation, I can see what the y-intercept is. Just by looking at this equation, I can see what the constraint is. Okay? And so both equations have their pros and cons, all right? Both equations have their pros, both of them have their cons, both of them have their limits. So, question 1 here, is it easier to find the x-intercept of the graph of the equations in part B by using slope-intercept or standard form? It's going to be easier to find. Okay, so we need to talk about how to find an x-intercept. Anybody got a thought on that? Colin.
Take the constraint and divide it by the number that is next to the
That's what you end up doing. Why? But yes, you are correct. Now I need you to explain to me mathematically why it's okay to do that.
because if you look at slope intercept, if you take the constraint and divide it by 10y, then you get 15, which is what the y-intercept is in slope intercept. So when you do that, that would give you your x-intercept.
Okay, so the way that works is think about a graph. We always talk about y-intercepts, right? We talk about those all the time. So what is my x value on the y-intercept?
0.
It's always gonna be 0. X-intercept, or y-intercept is always gonna be 0 some y value, right? That's always what that's gonna be. So what about the y value on the x-axis?
0.
That's always, so an x-axis is always gonna be x, some x number, and the y is always gonna be 0. Okay, does that make sense? So mathematically, the reason you're correct, Colin, is because I can put a 0 in for y, and so what's 10 times 0? It gets rid of that value. Okay, and then I just divide by the coefficient in front of the x. Okay, so you were exactly right. I just needed you to understand why you were right. Okay, so could we use this one to find the x-intercept?
Yeah.
We could still put a 0 in for y and solve for x with slope-intercept. We could find the x-intercept if we want to. It's just gonna take a couple of steps. With the standard form, it's gonna be really quick. It's gonna be super simple. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, so x and y, what would be a benefit of finding the x and y, the x and the y intercepts?
Because then you just graph
Yeah.
2 points and then just draw a line.
If I know this is the y-intercept and I know that's the x-intercept, all I gotta do is connect those two with a line, right? Once you know the two intercepts, you can make a line. All right. Okay, what is the graph of 3x minus 2y equals 9? To sketch a graph of a linear equation in standard form, find the x and y intercepts. So, x and y intercepts, guys, is super simple. I usually do it with a simple little t-chart. You have the answer?
I have, is
Or
there
question.
one answer, or is there multiple?
There is one x-intercept and there is one y-intercept. So we're looking for two different values. So here's how I do it. Let me just take you through how I do it one time. There are obviously a dozen different ways you can think through this. I always do it with a t-chart. I want to put a 0 in for y and find my x-intercept, and I want to put a 0 in for x and find my y-intercept. I want to do it 2 times. So first I'm going to find my x-intercept by putting a 0 in for y. 3x minus 2 times 0 equals 9.
So that'd be
So-
x equals 3.
So that'd just be 3x equals 9. Divide by, and I'm showing all the steps. I know you guys are gonna be able to do this in your head a lot quicker than that. So x equals 3, and I'm fine with that. So x-intercept is 3. Now I'm gonna reverse it, and I'm gonna put a 0 in for the x. So 3 times 0 minus 2y equals 9.
So that'd be
So that goes away.
negative 4.5.
Negative 2y equals 9 divided by negative 2, so y equals negative 4.5.
Wait, we don't know what the chart is numbered. It could be numbered by thousands. It could
Well,
be numbered
if-
by 0.
Since it's
by
not
10.
Numbered, we get to number it. We're gonna number it by
Oh,
ones.
can we number? Oh,
We're gonna
I want
number
to
it
do
by
right
1.
now.
No, we're gonna keep life simple. So my x-intercept,
It's gonna be hard.
x-intercept is 3, 0. My y-intercept is 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4.5. Okay. Select the straight line tool. And something like that. Whoops, man, I missed it. Wow, holy cow.
Cooper,
That was
give
awful.
me my calculator. Well, what is that?
That's a little better.
I just,
I don't have a
maybe I just did it wrong, but I kind of just did it like, I just got like, I knew what 3 times, I did, 3 times 5 is, 15 minus 4, or 6, I mean, sorry, is 9.
So,
Look at that.
Bennett did something weird.
okay, no, Bennett just, listen. Bennett did a different T-chart than I did.
I just
Bennett-
did it in my head.
Okay, but here's what your head did. I don't know if this is what you saw or not, but here's what your head did. You put a 5 in for x because you said the number 15, right? And then what do you need to subtract?
6.
You need to subtract 6 to get 9, so that means you put a 3 in for y. So 5, 3, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. If I'd drawn my line more correctly, that line should be on the ordered pair.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Okay.
I did get the same graphics,
Yeah.
so I was wondering.
Right, so you did it, you just didn't follow directions. It says use the x and y intercepts. Listen, yeah, you can always choose other ordered pairs, right? We can always put other numbers in for x and y. We don't have to put zeros in for x and 0 in for y. We can do it differently, okay? But typically, x and y intercepts are gonna be easy to find. Now, they may not be easy to graph, right? On this one, when we put a 0 in for y, we're gonna have another half. Sometimes I don't like doing halves on graphs. So, but halves are not too bad, but when it gets into thirds and quarters and weird numbers,
I don't like those.
okay?
16ths.
So if I put, oops, x and 0, that's not what I wanted.
You seriously just have to use my calculator.
X and y.
By 10 by
So if I put a 0 in for x, 4 times 0 plus 5y equals 10. What is y-intercept?
It is.
2. And then if I put a 0 in for y, so 4x plus 5 times 0 equals 10.
2.5.
So that would be 2.50. All right, so 0, 2, and 2.50 is like that.
I
Wait.
need the X straight line tool. It's really important to know what goes first, X or Y.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you can,
No, but like when you're just saying it, like.
oh, I mean, you could find either one first, but yeah, I mean, it would be easy to flip your numbers around if you're not careful.
I just did the same, I just did the same thing as the last one I did it, but this time I did get the same answer, or like almost the same number.
Okay, you need to be able to find the intercepts.
I know how to do
Okay,
it.
all right, so that's gonna be one on the, I mean, you're gonna have to find some intercepts at some point, so. All right, relate standard form to horizontal and vertical lines. So what does a graph of ax plus by equals c look like when a equals 0? So if this number right here, this coefficient is 0, what's that gonna do to my x value?
It's gonna be nothing.
Nothing?
X value is gonna be able to equal
We find
absolutely
Y.
anything.
We find the y-intercept.
No, X would just be 0.
X would be able to equal nothing or anything.
If a is 0, does it matter what x is?
No.
X, when you multiply it, x is always gonna be 0. Okay, so the x x value goes away.
That means Y equals 3.
So if we have, think of it this way, if I had 0x plus 2y equals 6, what happens to the 0x?
It's gone.
It's gone, doesn't matter, I can't, x is irrelevant.
Y equals 3.
Okay, so then you would have 2y equals 6, which means y equals 3. So x can be literally anything, but y has to be 3. So y needs to be 1, 2, 3 right here.
If X is 0, wouldn't it just be?
No, x can be anything. X can be whatever we want it to be. We could leave this here. We could always have the 0x at the front, and I could make x 1 or 5 or 10 or 1 billion, and it wouldn't matter, because all that matters is that my y value has to be 3. And so what that ends up looking like on your graph is this.
Whoa.
X can be anything, y has to be 3. It's a horizontal line.
Which wouldn't that be no slope?
That is a 0 slope line, yes.
But that slope line just vertically.
So, listen, this y equals 3 is a slope-intercept equation, right? Because think about slope-intercept. Slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. What did we say the slope was? 0. So if I put a 0 in for the slope, what's that do to the x?
It's gonna get.
Look where the zeros are. The zeros,
it'd be y equals
right?
0 x plus
Y
3.
equals 0, x plus 3, so again, the x value goes away, the x value is irrelevant. So all we would have is y equals that y-intercept, okay? So,
I learned this the easier way by forgetting to put the X on the decimals.
there you go, all right. Now, we know what happens when we take the a value to 0, what's gonna happen when you take the b value to 0?
Okay, first you gotta know x equals negative 2, because that's shy.
That's just common.
Okay.
Negative 2.
Yeah,
And then you go left or right 2, or no left, I'm sorry. Because it's negative.
So 3x plus 0y equals negative 6.
so what kind of line is this gonna be?
It's gonna
gonna
be
be
straight down.
Vertical, okay, we did a horizontal line when we took away when the a value was 0, so when we make the b value 0, that means this goes away. So we're gonna have 3x equals negative 6, so x equals negative 2, right?
It'll be.
I don't care what the y value is, y value can be anything, but x has to be negative 2.
So this would have an infinite slope.
Infinite slope, some books say that, I never have liked infinite as a description of slope, I prefer undefined. No, undefined is what it is.
What if it is this one?
Some books will say that, I don't prefer to call it that. Infinite slope,
You never know if way up, like millions, if for some reason curves.
well, it's not gonna do that, but it just, I just don't, I don't like it as a description of slope, I just don't like it.
You just
No,
don't like it.
Cooper. Cooper.
Sketch a graph of each equation.
Okay, so you just gotta solve for the letters first. This is easy.
Well, I did 0x plus 2y and then divided by the
Well, that's fine, but you're gonna end up same spot I did.
Yeah.
And then the other one is x equals 3.
Y equals negative 6, so what kind of line is that?
Just,
Undefined.
Horizontal, it's a 0, so it's down here at the bottom, I kinda missed the line, but should be down there at the bottom. And then 4x equals 12,
vertical.
so x equals 3. So that should be right here.
Oh, that's the wrong graph.
If you combine those together, you could make a graph, right? But that's not what they want to do. I'm just saying you could.
Combine them. Oh, yeah, 4x plus 3y, no, you don't wanna mix those up. We will do that later, when we do systems of equations, we will combine some stuff, but we're not doing it right now.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
You should have.
Oh,
What'd you do, Mr. Fish? You
Just-
break it?
broke the little tip off the end of my pen.
Mr. Fish.
Mr. Fish.
Alright. Tamira is making trail mix. She has $40 to spend on a mixture of almonds and cashews and wants about the same amount of almonds as cashews. How can she determine, how can she determine how many pounds of each kind of nut to buy? So almonds is $8 a pound, cashews is $10 a pound.
You do 8x plus 10y equals 40. It's
I
fine.
just don't know what it is.
8x plus 10.
Okay,
I like to know if I'm right.
so we've said that almonds is our X, is gonna be measured on our X-axis, and cashews would be on our Y. Okay? Write and graph an equation to make that work. So I can graph this super simply by using the intercepts, right? So if I put a 0 in for X, what's Y gonna be? 4. And then if I put a 0 in for Y, what's X gonna be?
5.
Okay, so 0, 4, would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 comma 0 would be right there.
Straight line
Oops. Kinda. I'm not always, there we go, that's not too bad. So. Now, the thing about almonds and cashews, is it possible to buy, does she just have to buy like 1 pound of one and 4 pounds of the other or something?
No.
No, she could buy 1.5 pounds and 3.5 and 3.2 and that kind of stuff, right? So,
almonds and cashews and trails.
she wants to get about the same amount of each nut, right? What would we do to kind of focus in on that?
Should get,
She
you
gets
would
one
find
person.
at the you would find relatively the most even spot on the graph where it's kind of in the middle.
About the middle spot of the graph?
Yeah.
Which you could just draw a line of one slope, y-intercept of 0, x-intercept of 0, slope of 1. That would give you a line right up through the middle, and then you just see what point where the two graphs cross. That would give you a perfectly even amount, but that would be like a weird number if you look.
Yeah. So,
Just by like,
you know, we could kind of look, I don't know, the middle of the graph is about right there, right? I don't have the right writing tool selected. There we go. Middle of the graph is about right there. So that would be, let's see, which one did we say? Almonds is X, about 2.5 pounds of almonds and 2 pounds of cashews would put us about right there. So 2.5 almonds would be 16.20, and then 2 would be 20 more. That'd be $40. Hey, that's pretty good. All right, we did it. Success. All right. Time's the bell ring.
22.
22. All right, we got time. Keep going. Ooh, concept summary. That means we're at the end of the lesson. All right. So the standard form of a linear equation is useful. That's good. It's useful to find the x and y intercepts easily. It's useful to write the equation of a vertical or horizontal line. The x-intercept is the value of x when y is 0, and the y-intercept is the value of y when x is 0. So ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are integers, and a and b are not both equal to 0. That's standard form. All right. So that is the end of the lesson.
There's one more.
Oh, those are some practice problems.
We don't need to do it.
the
All right.
sides are